Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. Tyson, we're back, man. It's been a full week of shows like we normally do. We're back in the routine after Thanksgiving, after taking off 2 weeks, actually.
I know. Yeah, we were kind to ourselves. We needed a little break anyway, so it's all good. Man, I need a haircut, brother. I look bad.
Well, you normally have the hat on, so you're giving everybody what that luscious flow looks like normally.
That's flow. Mine grows up, dude. I look like coconut head.
Tyson, let's not waste too much time. You know how we do it here, folks. We're going to do our NFL Week 13 preview. We're going to go through each game, give kind of some little thoughts about what we're expecting. We don't have the full injury report as we're recording on Thursday. If there's any speculation, we'll throw it out there, this and that. But Tyson, this is a big bye week. We got the Bills, the Bears, the Raiders, the Vikings, the Giants, and the Ravens on bye. And Tyson, this isn't even the last bye week. We got two teams having bye weeks in week 14.
Just in time for the Bills. That's what made me laugh so hard. It's like they could have used this, at any other point in the season, and here they are dead. But I'm excited because the more buys we have, Brad, the less games we have to talk about, the sooner. Because since we record these on Thursday, we're always kind of rushing, trying to get in front of our TV screens to watch the Amazon Prime game. So more buys means less time in here with you, so we can get in there and watch a game.
It's actually a good game on Thursday. The Seahawks take on the Cowboys. Big implications for us as Eagles fans, and big game otherwise for the Eagles this weekend as well, which we'll get to. But Tyson, let's start here. Chargers 5.5-point favorites on the road against the Patriots. And now normally this would be a game when everybody's like, you got to take the Patriots at home. This isn't your mom's Patriots, your dad's Patriots, your grandpa's Patriots at this point. Like, this team is bad. I think Bailey Zappi's going to start. And the Chargers 4-7 on the other side. This team's dead, man. This is one of the worst games on the slate.
Oh, it's horrendous. Like in the 5.5 line, I think tells you everything you need to know about how people feel about the Los Angeles Chargers. I think we're finally done with the will they won't they thing with this team. But it's not even your big brother's Patriots. Like, it's been quick this fall. Look, man, I'm the ultimate Mac Jones hater. What's the benefit in starting Bailey Zappi? Like, I don't see it, but whatever. It's not for me to decide. I'm just saying that if I was running that organization, maybe just let Max sling that thing, see if you can't get that trade value up to a third or a fourth going into next year's draft, because it's all-time low right now.
I'd say even Will Greer, if you want to really know what's in that organization. I thought they brought him back. I'm not sure. Yeah, we're not up to date with the Patriots third string.
And bringing him back, and they signed with Cunningham. They gave him a contract extension and waived him like 3 days after that. So they're doing whatever they want.
So game that we're going to probably stay away from. Now, this is an interesting one because the Cardinals are going to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh coming off 400 yards of offense. They're 5.5-point favorites. The Cardinals have Kyler Murray back, but even then, this is a roster that was projected to have the number 1 overall pick. It's still a bad roster. Now, the Steelers, can we expect them to put back-to-back offensive games together under their new offensive coordinator with Matt Canada being fired? That's what I want to see. It's a non-play for me just because I want to see it. Now, I played the Steelers last week. It just made too much sense. But against the Cardinals and a feisty team there, I just don't – I'm staying away.
So does it count if they have a good offensive performance in the box score this week? Because with this Jonathan Gannon defense, I think there's going to be a lot of dinking and dunking. I think some of the numbers are going to be a little bit inflated. So this is one I'm actually looking forward to watching, kind of with a more critical eye towards the Steelers offense, because I want to see if this is sustainable or if it's just like, hey, man, when our running backs get hot, like, we can move the football, which is true for 32 NFL football teams.
Broncos at Texans. Now, I'm super interested in this one. This has massive AFC playoff implications because the Broncos have won 5 in a row. They're starting to figure things out. Their defense under Vance Joseph, we talked about it a little bit in our recap episode earlier in the week. They've pieced some things together, turning people over, and the Texans coming off a tough loss against the Jags. Like, they had legitimate aspirations of winning that division, and those are kind of by the wayside now. How did they respond at home? It's a young quarterback. He's starting to look like a rookie quarterback the past couple of weeks with mistakes. If he does that against this Broncos defense, I think there could be turnovers galore in this one for the Texans.
And this is, like you mentioned, it's super important, but this is like a wild card game right now. Like, this is the Broncos, for, like, we were talking on, I believe 2 days ago on Tuesday on our AFC kind of preview there of the playoffs. Like Denver's not out of this, but a loss, it's not. It doesn't put the nail in the coffin, but it slams it shut, right? And then you're just waiting on the hammer. The Texans can't afford to lose 2 in a row. I personally, we've been high on the Texans all year long, but 2 in a row with a really young team after the entire world was kind of bigging you up there for the first 10 weeks of the season or whatever, to lose 2 in a row, I'm wondering. I almost want to see it to see how the team bounces back. I know that might be a little bit unfair, but Houston's not winning the Super Bowl this year, folks. Let's see what they look like in some adversity fighting for a playoff spot, which I guess, they've been doing. I want to scrutinize as much as I can. And CJ Stroud's been elite. I want some bumps in the road and see how he bounces back.
Yeah, and I think on that front too, this is a young defense. They've started to get a little bit more leaky against opposing offenses. And, you bring over D'Amico Ryans, he's supposed to be the defensive guy. Is this the type of offense that the Broncos have that's going to test them? Honestly, they've looked better under Sean Payton with Russell Wilson the past few weeks. There could be a little bit of explosion in offense here, or I can see it going the other way where there's just mistake, and then nothing's going on. It's a lot of stagnation. So I'm going to have my eye on that one for sure. How about the Lions? 4.5-point road favorites against the Saints. I mean, if there is some turmoil going on in that locker room. I was reading a couple things there. Derek Carr, oh, shocker, not as good of a leader as the media wants you to believe.
What?
Who's been calling that for about 3 years on this podcast, Tyson? Lions coming off a stinker on Thanksgiving. I mean, they got boat raced early and often against the Packers. Now, is that just the classic Detroit Thanksgiving curse? Because it's just certain things in sports that you can put your calendar to and be like, oh, that's going to happen. And the Lions underperforming on Thanksgiving is one of them. Controlled environment in the dome. So you expect this offense to still be good for the Lions. What are you looking forward to in this one, or what do you expect?
Well, I want to see this Lions defense fly around. That's kind of, we thought there was going to be more opportunities for them to make plays against Green Bay, and I assume that sentiment hasn't changed much from anybody in the country going against this New Orleans Saints offense. It didn't work against Green Bay before the game. It was like, man, if they can make Jordan Love turn the ball over, they're going to win this game by 100. They didn't do that. He looked fine. They didn't score enough points. They lost the game. That's going to continue to happen to them as they kind of move up in class here if this defense can't just put its foot down. Because, we love all these guys. Alex Anzalone is one of the best guys in the NFL to watch. That's not the guy that's going to win you a playoff game or a Super Bowl week in and week out, right? So just up the consistency. If you're the Lions defense, that's what I'm looking for here. In this Saints offense, dude, if it's check down after check down, they might get ran off the field.
Colts 1.5-point favorites at the Titans. Got a run game going last week with Derrick Henry in spots. He burst the big one, really kind of inflated the numbers, but that's part of the game. Honestly, though, that game against the Panthers team was way more tight than it should have been. I think that's your concern if you're the Titans. But Tyson, on the flip side, this Colts defense can still get got. I mean, it's still Gus Bradley running the defense. If they're able to give Will Levis time to push the ball down the field like he wants to do, I think there's a potential we could see fireworks in this one. And then no Jonathan Taylor for the Colts. Is Zach Moss going to be able to step up against this running attack? This run defense that the Titans have that's a solid unit, or is it going to be on all Gardner Minshew's shoulders? That's what I want to see here. Is it going to be a one-sided attack for the Colts? Because they can beat the Titans if they're just throwing the football, but I don't think they want to be in that and rely on Gardner Minshew to do that.
Yeah, and it kind of, hinges to me on Josh Downs' health as far as how often they're going to be, because you don't know with the Colts before the games. We all talk, they're playing a bad rush defense, and then they throw the ball 55 times, right?
Right.
And they score 30 points. It's a good offensive performance on the box score there, but it just doesn't feel normal. But that's this Colts team. And on the flip side, man, they got to open this thing up for Will Lev. If Will Levis can I don't care if he throws 10 interceptions on Sunday, just see what you can do as far as turning the offense a little bit. Look, man, Treylon Burks probably bust city. But put him in a position that he was in at Arkansas, where he can try to make plays after the catch. Chigakonkwo is slowly coming on a little bit as far as he might be a serviceable NFL player. And then outside of that, man, you paid for DeAndre Hopkins, you stink. Let it fly.
And when they let him fly earlier, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins turned back the clock a little bit. So I agree with you. I mean, they got to push the ball down the field. There's no point in not. You know what you are now. You're not making the playoffs. And
you're going to run Derrick Henry into the ground just so whoever gets him next year is pissed? You're going to do that guy a disservice?
Probably, knowing the Titans. But How about the Falcons going on the road at the Jets? I think this is one of the most interesting games in terms of what we want to see from these teams. Falcons, they're back in the division lead. Okay, here we go. Here's your chance to go on the road and make some separation here. Again, it's Desmond Ridder on the road, and you go to MetLife. That's tough, considering the fact that this is a really good Jets defense, but the offense doesn't put them in position to succeed, right? Like, they're always on the field. They always have to be the ones making plays, and they're constantly the ones that have to make sure the dam doesn't break, for lack of a better term. And the Falcons, Tyson, is it fool's gold last week? Bijan Robinson was finally used. Is Arthur Smith going to try to big brain it and not use him again? I think we're going to see a lot of interesting things in this one between both sides.
I'm a little pissed off that the football gods have robbed us of one of like, look, man, Desmond Ridder versus Tim Boyle is going to be electric, but I was here for the Desmond Ridder versus Zach Wilson debate we were going to have. Who is the worst starting quarterback in the NFL? For the Falcons, like, you figured it out a little bit. It's like, hey, the guy we took number 8 overall in the draft, if we just put him in positions to succeed, we can move the ball. Like, oh, we don't have to average 3 yards a carry with Tyler Algier. We can get 7 through the air with Bijan. Drake London's not doing nothing on Sunday. It's going to be the run. That's the only way that this Jets defense is going to get got. And unfortunately, if it comes down to who can throw the ball better, I don't know the answer to that, Brad.
Yeah, me either, to be completely honest with you right now. And I think it's going to be tough for Ridder on the road against that secondary, to be completely honest.
Is Tim Boyle the worst college quarterback to ever play more than like a couple snaps in the NFL?
Well, I guess Bajent won the D2 Heisman, so
I mean, what was Boyle's record? Like at UConn, how many games did he win? And then on the I mean, this guy, don't check the stats if you haven't. Being Aaron Rodgers' friend is one of the best jobs you can get.
I know. Where do I sign up? Dolphins 9.5-point road favorites at the Commanders. So here's the angle I'm curious to see. Just me personally. Are the Dolphins going to be able to do something consistently on offense? Because it's been in spurts, right? Like they've scored a lot and then Commanders defense, this is the time that the Dolphins should be putting up a huge number, like a crooked number, and they just dominate this defense here. On the flip side, the Commanders, do we know what the offense is? They throw the ball a ton and they put up points like kind of inconspicuously. Like you're just like, what? How'd that happen? The Dolphins, if they don't get pressure in this game, I think there's a real concern for this defense. Now, Jalen Phillips out, torn Achilles, so that hurts. But even without him, if they don't get pressure on the Commanders, Tyson, I think we're going to be viewing this defense a lot differently down the stretch.
Yeah, it's going to be – I mean, is JPP going to get any burn? Probably not. So it's, kind of the guys you've had in the building all year. It's about time. Like, if you want to prove to the rest of the NFL that, like, hey, we belong up here with Baltimore and Kansas City and the other teams at the top of the AFC, you can't just put foot in somebody on the offensive end. Like, it's cool when they do it. It's really fun to watch. But sometimes, like, you have to prove that you can play tough, hard football. And the Dolphins aren't going to win this one ugly because, like, the Commanders are kind of the kings of giving away games. Early, I expect Miami to just get up huge within probably the first half here, maybe double digits at halftime and kind of just coast. But, man, Sam Howell might throw for 400 yards.
Panthers at Bucs. Interesting game in division. Now, Frank Reich, we talked about this in the recap, fired. So is there a classic bounce back that comes back for the Panthers with fired coaches? Now, on the other side, the Bucs, where are they at mindset-wise? I mean, it's been disappointing. Like, they got off to a good start, right? Probably. I mean, let's be honest here. Like the veterans who probably, they're not far removed from winning a championship. They don't get dealt at the deadline, so they're kind of stuck here in Tampa Bay. Doesn't look like there's a path to the playoffs. What's their mindset? Are they really trying to compete to close out this football season? I'm not so sure. So I want to see how both these teams respond to some adversity that's hitting them right now.
You can say what you want about Baker Mayfield, the NFL player, but I think Baker Mayfield, the competitor, is absolutely going to come out here and try to win this game. On the Panthers front, with the little boost teams normally get, like we saw with AP after Josh McDaniels got fired, we see it every year. I don't know if it's the same when a guy, by all accounts, was respected by the players, and it was front office issues that kind of got Frank Reich out of there alongside not winning games, right? But normally when we see that boost, it's like, oh, we're so glad that we got rid of whoever it was. like I get to play now. And I don't know if that's the case for Carolina. Like what's going to happen? Miles Sanders is going to go for 25 yards and we're going to all freak out. There's not enough like good players on this football team, I don't think, at least on this offense, to expect a boom here.
Yeah, there are some weird things that came out too, like when Reich took back the play calling, it ruffled some feathers in the locker room. I don't know. Like that's just reports coming out. Now, is that a couple disgruntled people who are leaking it to the media and the overall sentiment? I'm not sure.
What does Bill Simmons call them? It's the, oh, now you tell me reports.
Right. Exactly. Okay, Tyson, the biggest game of the weekend for sure. 49ers now 2.5-point favorites on the road in Philadelphia. Now, this opened as Eagles minus 1.5. They're the favorites. Now, money came in the other side, the 49ers. People are viewing this as a bad spot for the Eagles. I think you'd be hard-pressed to disagree, to be completely honest here. 49ers have been cruising since their bye, since they got Debo back, since they got Trent Williams back. So the Eagles right now, 2 games clear for the number 1 seed, but they got the 49ers and Cowboys next. This is a huge game for them. Really, this whole stretch has been huge, and they've come up on top. What are you expecting in this one? Could they be run down a little bit after an OT game?
I think absolutely. With the defense, 95 to like 80 snaps for all the important defensive players in the Eagles, it doesn't bode very well against the team coming off, a 10-day kind of break there because they played on Thanksgiving, the 49ers, and they absolutely handled the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah. They looked fantastic. I think that what the 49ers do over the middle is going to create a lot of problems for the Philadelphia Eagles, especially this week. No Zach Cunningham, which if you're not an Eagles fan, you're probably like, who cares? If you are an Eagles fan, you're probably pooping your pants a little bit. What I'm most curious to see in this game, Brad, is this Eagles defense hasn't been very good, as far as numbers go, playing some of these teams that they played over this stretch. But Sean Desai looked like he had an answer for the Shanahan style against Miami, and we'll see. Yep. Right, because Miami's fast. San Francisco wants to punch you in the face. And so I wonder if that difference is big enough to throw that off. But, like, the last point on this game, Jalen Hurts, number 1 passer rating in the league. When he's trailing, Brock Purdy is 32nd in the league when he's trailing. So this truly is going to be a case of, like, man, if the 49ers stay on top, it's going to be the best quarterback with a lead versus the best quarterback coming back. And then flipped, I think San Fran's dead if they get down by double digits. I don't expect that to happen, though.
Browns at Rams, another interesting game here. So I think there's a possibility Flacco plays in this one, which I think is driving the line a little bit, because if it's PJ Walker, listen, I know the Browns defense is great, but when Kyron Williams returned for the Rams, that completely opened up that offense. Like, they were explosive. They had another element to their game. I mean, Matt Stafford looked great last week. Granted, it was against a bad football team, and that defense is not the Browns defense. But knowing that, and knowing that Sean McVay now has every single weapon available at his expense and what he wants to do, he can run the football, which we know he wants to do. When he had Todd Gurley, he really leaned on it. How many snaps are is this Browns defense going to be on the field for? That's my biggest thing here, because if it's 3 and out with PJ Walker, that's not good. That does not bode well for them. But if they're able to move the ball in this inexperienced Rams defense, I think we could see the Browns being a live football team here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some elements of this year's Rams team that it kind of makes you harken back to the old Lion Stafford days, where it's like, oh, did they just do that? Like they didn't capitalize there. It's a turnover or whatever. Kyron Williams, perfect for the Sean McVay system. I still don't think he's probably within the top 32 actual running backs in the NFL. But he does his job very, very well. I think that, I got to play on this one, I'll say.
Ooh, okay. Sunday Night Football, Chiefs 6-point road favorites at the Green Bay Packers, coming off a huge victory against the Detroit Lions. Now, Chiefs got down early against the Raiders. They looked bad, and then they woke up, boat raced the Raiders. That was a talent mismatch that you could see from a mile away. I was watching a little breakdown film on the Packers and what they did to get Jordan Love in success. Tyson, what would you know? They backed them up in like a 7 to 9 step drop, clean pocket. And their receivers, like, if there's one thing the Packers have is speed at receiver, they have to learn how to run routes and all this other stuff. But they can get separation. This is going to be a big test against this Chiefs defense. I don't know if they're just going to be able to do a 9-step drop against that front. And if you don't know how to run routes, I think it's going to be tough against this experience. I can't believe I'm saying that, because they were young last year, but an experienced young Chiefs secondary who can run with the best of them. So that's my biggest thing I want to see. Like, is it something that LaFleur has noticed and it can translate through the rest of the season against the big test here? Or is it going to be, oh, okay, that's right, the Packers, they still have a lot to work on with this youth on the offense?
And Aaron Jones questionable again. Like we mentioned every week, it feels like that's just the hyphenated version of his last name. But AJ Dillon also questionable a little bit with what happened. I think he got banged up at practice. He's going to play. That's what the rumors are. But if he's compromised, like what does this Green Bay offense become? Romeo Doubs, fantastic story. This is a guy that people are overhyping because of fantasy football, because he finds a way to catch a touchdown at the end of every game. He's not the one. Christian Watson's not the one. The best wide receiver on this team is Jaden Reed, and the second best one, I think, is probably Wicks. So we'll see as far as like at what point are those two guys going to start overtaking? Because the Jaden Reed takeover is here, I think, for this offense. I think LaFleur kind of views him Debo light, so to say, as far as like this system is going to be similar once they get everything rolling, obviously, to San Francisco. Kansas City's going to just come out and score points. Like I think that's just at the end of the day, can Green Bay score 20 against this Chiefs defense? The answer is probably no.
Yeah, and I think Christian Watson probably slots into the number 2 if Reed's going to be their 1, which honestly is fine. Like if you understand that role and you can get him on backside goes, backside posts, let him use his speed, if he actually catches the ball, that projects to be a pretty good receiving unit. Now, it's not Devontae Adams and Jordy Nelson and all them like they had in the past.
It could have been Devontae Adams and us and that wide receiver. Like he carries every room he's ever been in.
Okay, Monday Night Football, Bengals at Jaguars. Jaguars 8.5-point favorites at home. I have question marks about the Jags, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Trevor Lawrence played a great game against the Texans last week. The Jaguars came out fired up, ready to go. This seems like on primetime a spot where it's a classic letdown with this franchise, with Doug Peterson, and with Trevor Lawrence. So that's my biggest thing. But the Bengals, their defense is young. Haven't quite had the same amount of success as they had last season under Luna Anarumo, but he's a great schemer. And then, Jake Browning, right? He's a ton of experience in college, been a journeyman, thought he was going to be a head coach before getting on the practice squad. Not a head coach, I'm sorry. Get into coaching before moving to the practice squad of the Bengals this season. This should be a game that the Jaguars stomp out the Bengals. Is that going to happen? I am not so sure.
I don't know if anybody's going to stomp out. I think the Bengals have too much pride to get absolutely housed by a lot of these teams. Like Jacksonville has to continue to involve Calvin Ridley, continue to involve these playmakers. We don't know what's going to happen with Zay Jones. Like that, his whole situation there just kind of got swept under the rug and has been moved to the side. So I imagine he's playing for the rest of the year. I'd love to see him get involved more in this offense. I personally think he's the X factor. I know that Travis Etienne obviously can do insane things, and Calvin Ridley can do insane things, and Christian Kirk is really good. When Zay Jones is involved, this offense looks much better, and Trevor Lawrence looks way more comfortable back there to me. And I thought that might have been his best game of the year last week.
Yeah,
and if he can continue and just kind of do this year over year, Joe Burrow Jr. thing where it's like we stink to start, and all of a sudden you don't want to see me in the playoffs, that's fine if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan.
All right, well, that's going to do it for our Week 13 preview. Tyson, you know what's coming up now, baby. It's Money Makin Time, and we got what we always do. We recap the last week, and for us, this is Week 10. Week 10 recap. So let's go back in the time machine. So team play of the week for me, Cowboys team total over 27.5. That hit easily as they're playing the Giants. Browns plus 6.5 against the Ravens. They won outright. Falcons let me down again. What do you know? A complete stinker. I couldn't believe what I was watching. The Saints against Josh Dobbs, really? You can't win that game? Unbelievable as they lose outright there. And then the Seahawks, 5.5-point favorites. We're covering the entire time. Not necessarily a backdoor, but a frustrating loss as they couldn't get home the 5.5-point spread. So was down 1.27 units this week, Tyson, or that week, Tyson.
That week. That sounds much better.
Yes.
I went 1-3. It was not a good week for me either. The Jake Ferguson touchdown, Cowboys money line kind of carried some water for me this week. Turns out in that game against the Giants, you could have just bet every player on the Cowboys touchdown and the Cowboys money line. You would have made a lot of money. Vikings Saints under, I don't know, man. Like over, and then to watch this Vikings offense on Monday night against the Bears, I'm just sick. Jaguars money line, obviously they squander that one. And then the Packers and Steelers game under 38.5. I'm cooked at the end of the first quarter.
Right.
In the Steelers-Packers game at 38.5. I obviously did not get the memo the Steelers were going to wake up, but they did. And I'm wondering if maybe I should move some of these teams off my automatic unders list.
Potentially. That's the thing. I mean, they finished with 43 points. That's the frustrating thing because the second half was a dud, but not the first half. The first half, they had fireworks. Okay, let's get into our picks for this weekend, Tyson. We both have 4. So why don't you start off this week? Let's mix up the mojo.
That's what's going on. That'll help. I'm going to start it off here, Brad. I'm going to take the Lions -4.5 on the road against New Orleans Saints. It's in a dome. I think this is a huge bounce back spot for the Lions. I think in years past, or with different head coaches, maybe different cultures in Detroit, that might have been a sinker. Like, this team was 8-2 and on top of the world before Thanksgiving, and then the Eagles win a crazy game, and the Niners look like that, and the Cowboys just keep rolling people, and the Lions kind of just automatically get moved down in our minds to the 4th best team in the NFC here, and I don't think they agree with that. I think this is a pretty good spot for them to put up a bunch of points.
Well, I have a similar angle. I'm going over 46.5 in that game. In the dome, I'm not worried about Jared Goff, road outdoor splits, things like that. This Saints defense, sure, like, it's pretty good on paper. I think it can get got a little bit, Tyson. And on the flip side, if the Saints are able to give Derek Carr some time, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I think they're going to be able to have some success through the air. So I think we're going to see some points, 7 touchdowns. That's basically what I'm banking on here. That feels like a lot, but I'm with you. I think the Lions could put up the 30-piece, to be honest with you. Like, their offense was out of sync last weekend, or I guess on Thanksgiving. I don't expect that to be the case here, especially with that time off. I think they're going to go back to the well on certain things. So give me the over 46.5 in this one.
Let's go. A little bit of a lockstep there for us. My next play, Brad, and I hate to do it, but I'm going to do it. I get tricked by these guys probably 5 times this season. Atlanta Falcons money line over the New York Jets. I know they're on the road. I just think Tim Boyle sucks. I just think that if it's going to be a kicking battle, give me Younghoe Koo. And that's kind of where I'm at with this one. I think that Bijan Robinson will continue to – I don't know if he's going to get the same amount of touches that he got last week, but I think that kind of just solidified in Arthur Smith's mind, like, hey, we can give this guy the ball. Because Cordero Patterson actually, I think, has been their second best running back over the last couple of weeks. And if they can kind of operate off those two while working Tyler Algier in a little bit instead of Algier and Cordero Patterson and working Bijan in a little bit, this offense just has a different – it doesn't, like, become a league-winning, like, ceiling, like a division-winning ceiling for the Atlanta Falcons. But it certainly, elevates beyond 10 points. And I just don't know. Like, Jesse Bates might outscore the Jets offense.
Well, I'm going to stick in the division. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going Panthers plus 5.5. Dude, I just can't get over just the head coaching change and just the historic numbers with that. And you pointed out, you had a good point. Like, is that going to be the case here? I just think a division game, it's going to be close. I'm questioning where the Bucs heads are at here. So I think we're going to see a little bit more of inspired unit from the Panthers. My concern, I will say, is their defense, because Baker's might be able to just throw it up to Mike Evans and them go get it, and Chris Godwin cuts him to death underneath. So we'll see. But I'm gonna play the historic trend here with the head coach fired and a divisional dog. So give me Panthers plus 5.5.
3 weeks ago, you were telling me the Panthers were going to make the playoffs.
Well, I was like, dude, let's look at the numbers here. Yeah, that would have been a wasted bet.
My next play here could be a wasted bet, Brad, but I don't really care. Philadelphia Eagles plus 2.5. It's a 10-1 football team at home. I think San Fran, with the rest advantage here, and honestly the way they're playing and the unique problems that they present, have as good a shot as anybody to knock off Philadelphia. It's also the Niners have to be really good to perfect, and I think the Eagles just have to be good to win this football game. Like that. That's where they've been. They haven't looked good in 2 months, and every week they're buried, and then they show up and beat a good team.
Yeah, man, to 2.5, that scares me. I do have a play in that game, though. I'm going to go tight. Yes, sir. I'm going to go Colts Titans over 42.5. Now, I'm a little scared by the hook on that key number of 42, but I alluded to it a little bit in our preview. I think there could be a lot of points in this one. I think both offenses can attack the weaknesses of the defense. And vice versa, I don't think that they're going to be pigeonholed into doing things that isn't successful. So, like, if the Colts don't have success against the Titans running the football, I don't think they're going to shy away from throwing the ball down the field. And, the Titans, they can stretch out the defense, but I also think they're going to be able to run a little bit on this Colts offense and create some plays, explosive plays, and let Will Levis get into that play action type of look where he's best at. So I'm going to go over 42.5 here in division in a Nashville night that doesn't seem to be bad weather either.
Well, just don't let Will Levis cook, because if it's like mayonnaise and coffee and banana peels and whatever, I just want him out the kitchen. My next play here, Brad, and my play of the week here, my final one, Cleveland Browns, Los Angeles Rams, under 39.5. Are the Rams going to be able to ruin this for me? Yes. Will they? I don't think so. I think that Cleveland is going to rely heavily on Jerome Ford. I think we're going to get some timely catches from this pass-catching group, whether it's Njoku or Eli Moore or Amari, like whoever it is. I think they'll be able to do just enough to keep that defense rested. And there's a chance that Myles Garrett throws Matt Stafford through the turf. And that's just that's what this defense is. I think at this point with this Browns defense, they're going to keep the game close enough that we're going to be frustrated as bettors, probably, if you're playing a straight-up spread line there. But as far as team total points go, it takes other teams scoring defensive touchdowns at this point in the season. Like, we have a big enough sample size for those overs to be hidden.
Tyson, I alluded to it before. Play of the week, so going to be a 6-point teaser. I'm going to get the Eagles up to 8.5, the Jags down to 2.5. That's minus 134 on the teaser line here on FanDuel. Now, I don't think the Jags are going to lose that game, so I'm going to take them down to a field goal. I just am not comfortable laying that many points coming off a big victory with this Jaguars team. And the Eagles, they could get blown out. They really could. I don't expect that to happen. Like, this is a big game for the Eagles too. They know all that smack of the 49ers are talking. They're ready for this one. Like, and you think coming off a tough victory or a tough game at overtime, traveling to Kansas City, like this could be a spot where it's a big letdown. Sure. When have we seen the Eagles in the past 2 seasons have letdown spots? It's been very, very rare unless they're playing the Commanders weirdly. Yeah, true. Well, that's because Johnny Gans is in charge. But I like this teaser, minus 134. I'm going to do a play of the week here, 4 plays for both of us, Tyson. But I will say, I was looking at other plays. I didn't quite get it down in this one. I want to do a little bit more research. So if we play that, where can they find those?
It'll be in the Chalkboard app. It's in the App Store, Google Play, wherever you download your apps. The group name is ISWIS Presents the Roundtable Bets. Just type that in. It's free. We'll let you write in. Let us know what you're playing. Whether it's the NFL games this weekend, you got some NBA stuff going on. You want to take Pacers overs because that's essentially like going to the ATM and they've just been handing out money. Whatever you're playing, go ahead and throw it in there. Let us know. And, we'll tail fade or just kind of shoot the shit with you. That's the point.
And in the meantime, like, subscribe, and share the show. If you're watching on YouTube and haven't already, smash that like button on the way out. It helps us become more discoverable in the YouTube algorithm. And similarly in podcast form, whether it's Apple or Spotify, right? Rate, review, give us 5 stars. That also helps us out, helps us become more discoverable for other people who like the content. And then share the show as well. Share it with a friend, share it with an enemy, whoever you want to send it to. We really appreciate you guys' support as always. Tyson, they can contact us on our socials as well. X, Instagram, TikTok. It's all the same handle at ISWIS_pod. Now, we'll be back next week. Same type of schedule. Breaking down what we saw in week 13. I mean, we're coming down to the crunch time, man. I mean, we got playoff stuff, playoff implications. We're getting down to it.
We are. We're here.
We are here. So, okay, we'll enjoy your weekend of football, championship weekend in college. Go check out our episode if you haven't already. Enjoy the NFL as well. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.